You know when you look at your smartphone and the battery is just, I mean, it's draining way faster than it should be.
Oh, yeah, like when you haven't even really used it.
Exactly. You haven't been using it much, but it's suddenly down to 20%. So you go into your settings, you look at the battery usage, and you realize you have all these background apps open.
Right. Dozens of them.
Yeah, dozens.
Hmm.
And they are silently, constantly eating up your battery life while you just, go about your day.
It is really this invisible drain. You don't see the background refresh happening, but the power is definitely being siphoned off anyway.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because today we are going inside the human mind to see if we are all walking around with, well, too many background apps open.
It's a great analogy.
Thanks.
Hmm.
Welcome to the deep dive.
Hmm?
Today we are looking at a landmark paper from 2010. It was published in the journal Science by Matthew A. Killingsworth and Daniel T. Gilbert.
A very famous paper.
Right, and it asks a kind of terrifying question. Is the human brain's default mode actually a glitch that makes us miserable?
Yeah, the paper is literally titled, "A Wandering Mind is an Unhappy Mind."
So our mission today is to figure out if thousands of years of philosophy, telling us to live in the moment, is actually backed by hard data. Does an unfocused mind inherently drain our emotional battery?
To set the stage for this, I want you to imagine standing in the middle of a really chaotic cityscape.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Picture the noise, the traffic, the flashing lights, just the sheer overwhelm of it all. Now, imagine putting on noise-canceling headphones, closing your eyes, and instantly transporting your mind into a completely silent, white, minimalist room.
Well, that sounds nice.
It does, right?
Yeah.
But that ability to physically be in one place but mentally exist in another is a profound evolutionary achievement.
Wait, an achievement, not a flaw.
Exactly. We call it stimulus-independent thought. It's the cognitive machinery that allowed early humans to simulate a winter that hadn't arrived yet or, plan a harvest months in advance.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, it's literally how we built civilizations.
So daydreaming isn't a bug. It's the operating system itself.
Precisely. But what's fascinating here is that while neuroscientists have spent decades putting people in fMRI machines to watch the neural networks light up when the mind wanders.
Because we love looking at brain scans.
Right, exactly. But no one had seriously measured the daily emotional toll of this ability. We knew the brain could time travel. We didn't know if that time travel was actively hurting you on a random Tuesday.
But catching someone in a lie about their own happiness is, it's tough. You can't just stick 50 college sophomores in a sterile room, tell them to stare at a blank wall and ask them how they feel.
No, because the environment changes the outcome.
Right.
And human memory is incredibly unreliable when it comes to emotion. If I ask you at 8 o'clock at night, hey, how happy were you at 10:15 this morning when you were answering emails?
I would probably just say I was annoyed.
Exactly. You are not going to give me a factual accounting of your emotional state. You are going to give me a summarized, heavily edited story based on how you feel right now.
Which is why the methodology of this study is so brilliant. They didn't rely on memory at all.
No, they didn't.
They brought the laboratory right into the real world. They developed an iPhone web app called Track Your Happiness to perform what they call experience sampling.
Experience sampling is essentially catching the mind in its natural habitat. By pinging participants at random waking moments, the app captures the raw, unfiltered, emotional data of a person actively living their life.
Before they have a chance to rewrite the narrative.
It's exactly that.
And what blows my mind is the scale of the net they cast.
Yeah.
We aren't talking about a few dozen locals in a psych lab.
Oh, not at all.
They built a database of nearly 250,000 samples. They tapped into about 5,000 people from 83 different countries across 86 major occupational categories.
The diversity of the data is staggering.
Yeah, the ages range from 18 to 88. And for the core analysis, they focused on this massive cross-section of about 2,250 adults. To be exact, it was 58.8% male with a mean age of 34.
Right.
So we're talking stockbrokers, janitors, teachers, you name it.
It really covered the spectrum.
And when the app pinged you, it asked 3 rapid-fire questions.
It was an elegantly simple design. First question, how are you feeling right now? On a sliding scale from 0 to 100.
Okay, straightforward enough.
Second, what are you doing right now? And they had a list of 22 everyday activities to choose from.
Right.
Third, and most importantly, are you thinking about something other than what you're currently doing? To which you could say no, or you could categorize the wandering thought as pleasant, neutral, or unpleasant.
Let me jump in here, though, because if I'm stuck in heavy traffic or I'm finally reading a book to unwind and my phone suddenly buzzes to ask me how I feel.
You're going to be annoyed.
Yeah, I'm going to be super annoyed. Doesn't the interruption itself taint the data? Wouldn't random pings naturally make the entire participant pool seem grumpier than they actually are?
That is a very common critique of experience sampling. But think about it systematically. The slight annoyance of a phone buzz is relatively uniform.
Okay, how so?
Well, it happens when you're eating, it happens when you're commuting, it happens when you're working. The researchers are not looking for your absolute baseline happiness score.
Oh, they're looking for the difference.
Yes, they're looking for the variance. They want to see how your mood shifts depending on whether your mind is focused on the traffic or dreaming about a vacation at the exact moment the phone buzzed.
That makes sense.
Trading a tiny bit of annoyance for the complete elimination of memory distortion is a bargain every psychologist will gladly take.
Okay, I follow the logic. So they bypass memory, they collect this absolute mountain of real-time data, and the first major finding they uncover is frankly a bit of a wake-up call.
It really is.
It's about frequency. Like, how often are we mentally checked out? The magic number is 46.9%.
Nearly half the time.
Yeah. You and everyone listening are spending almost half of your waking hours thinking about something other than the reality right in front of you.
Half of your life is spent interacting with a simulation. And when you look at the paper's data, specifically Figure 1, which maps out all the different activities, the pervasiveness of this is staggering.
It's everywhere.
For almost every single activity listed, people's minds were wandering in at least 30% of the samples, doing housework, eating, shopping.
It didn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The physical task had almost no bearing on whether the mind decided to pack its bags and leave.
So think about your commute this morning. According to the data, there was a 1 in 3 chance you weren't even mentally in the car.
Which is a little scary if you're driving.
Seriously.
Yeah.
But there has to be an exception. I refuse to believe we are just ghosts haunting our own lives all the time. Looking at their chart, I noticed one glaring anomaly where mind-wandering dropped off a cliff well below that 30% baseline.
And what was the activity?
Making love. Which, probably to no one's surprise, also ranked highest on the happiness scale.
It makes complete biological and psychological sense.
Why is that?
Making love is an activity that demands absolute physical, emotional, and cognitive engagement. The sensory input is so overwhelmingly strong that it effectively anchors the mind to the present moment.
So the background apps get shut down.
Yes, the background apps are forcibly closed by the intensity of the physical experience.
I love that. But I also noticed the total opposite end of the spectrum on their chart. There is a tiny, almost invisible bubble for praying, worshiping, or meditating.
Right.
It accounted for only 0.1% of the total samples collected. So the one deliberate practice humans have invented specifically to train attention and bring us back to the present moment
is the thing we spend almost literally zero time doing.
Yeah, it's wild.
Which perfectly illustrates the human predicament. We spend nearly half our lives living in a state of mental drift and a fraction of a percent actively trying to fix it. This sets up the critical question of the entire study. If we are mentally absent 46.9% of the time, what is that doing to our baseline joy?
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the thesis of the paper pulls no punches. The undeniable pattern across hundreds of thousands of data points is that people were unequivocally less happy when their minds were wandering than when they were not.
Across the board.
Across the board.
When they mapped the data, there was a steep, undeniable cliff. The moment the mind drifted away from the present task, happiness plummeted. And that held true even for tasks people actively disliked doing.
Okay, wait, I have to challenge this.
Go for it.
I call this the escapism paradox. Let's say I am doing laundry. I despise folding socks. It is mundane, it is repetitive, it brings me zero joy.
Sure.
If my mind decides to load up the background app of an upcoming beach vacation, shouldn't that pleasant daydream act as a buffer? Shouldn't simulating a beach make folding socks more tolerable than just staring blankly at the cotton?
It sounds incredibly intuitive, right? We treat pleasant daydreams as a mental refuge from a boring reality. But the data fiercely dismantles that assumption. Let's break down where the mind actually goes when it wanders.
Okay, let's look at the breakdown.
Wandering to an unpleasant topic made up 26.5% of the samples. Unsurprisingly, that makes you significantly unhappier.
Sure, thinking about an upcoming tax audit while folding laundry sounds miserable.
Then there are neutral topics, which made up 31% of the samples. Thinking about neutral things also made people considerably unhappier than just focusing on the mundane tasks.
That one is weird to me. Why would thinking about something completely neutral, like, oh, I need to buy milk later, make you sadder than folding socks?
Because mundane reality is at least grounded. When you think about a neutral task while doing a neutral task, you are doubling your cognitive load with absolutely zero emotional reward.
Oh, that makes sense.
You are splitting your brain's resources just to manage mundane logistics. But here is the real counter to your escapism paradox. Wandering to pleasant topics, which people did 42.5% of the time, made people no happier than simply focusing on the current activity.
Let me make sure I'm hearing this right. Daydreaming about a tropical beach does not make you happier than just feeling the fabric of the socks in your hands.
At best, a pleasant daydream barely breaks even with the physical reality of doing chores. At worst, neutral or negative daydreams drag your mood into the basement.
It's like trying to wear a virtual reality headset showing a gorgeous Hawaiian sunset while you physically try to wash dishes in your kitchen.
That's a great way to picture it.
The friction between the mental software and the physical hardware just ruins both experiences. You aren't really at the beach and you're doing a bad job at the dishes. The escape pod is a trap.
The friction you describe is exactly why the emotional tax is so high.
But hold on, how do they know the wandering actually caused the unhappiness?
What do you mean?
If I'm just in a terrible mood because I had a bad day at work, my brain is naturally going to spin out. It wants to escape the bad mood. How do they know that daydreaming isn't just a symptom of being sad, rather than the disease itself?
This raises an important question, and the researchers anticipated this exact counter-argument. Is the bad mood driving the wandering, or is the wandering driving the bad mood?
Right, chicken or the egg.
To solve this, they looked at the chronological sequence of the pings, something called a time lag analysis.
Walk me through how that works.
Because the app was pinging people repeatedly over the course of their day, the researchers could look at pairs of moments.
Okay.
They asked, if your mind was wandering at 10 a.m., were you unhappy at 10:30 a.m.? And the reverse, if you were unhappy at 10 a.m., did your mind naturally start wandering at 10:30 a.m.?
Oh, that's smart. They check the timeline.
Exactly, and the timeline strongly suggested that mind wandering generally preceded the drop in happiness.
Wow.
It was the cause, not merely the consequence. Your mind drifts away from the present, and the mood drops as a direct result.
So the background apps really are draining the battery, and they're doing it first. The mental time travel taxes the system.
It really does.
And what really shocked me in this paper was how they quantified the difference between the physical world and the mental world. They compared the impact of what you were doing versus what you were thinking.
This might be the most paradigm-shifting statistic in the entire study.
Tell me about it.
They looked at how much your mood changes from moment to moment and tried to isolate what factors explained those changes.
And the physical activity you were doing, whether you were eating, commuting, or doing chores, only explained 4.6% of the variance in a person's happiness.
Just 4.6.
But mind wandering explained 10.8% of that variance. Your thoughts are literally more than twice as powerful in determining your joy as your physical actions.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it fundamentally challenges the way we structure modern life. Think about how much energy you spend trying to curate your physical reality. You grind for the promotion, you save up for the nicer car to improve the commute, you renovate your kitchen.
Right. We're obsessed with upgrading our environment.
But this data suggests that the emotional return on your physical environment is completely separate from the state of your mind.
Meaning they are running on totally different tracks. You could be sitting on the exact beach you daydreamt about. But if your mind wanders back to the laundry or the office, the beach is essentially useless.
The mental simulation overrides the physical reality.
The physical environment cannot save you from an unmanaged mind. And if you look at the extreme ends of their activity chart, you see this dynamic play out in a very counterintuitive way.
You really do.
Yes. Let's talk about the bottom of that list. The least happy activities were working, commuting, and working on a home computer.
Nobody loves those.
True. But there was one physical activity down at the very bottom with them that blew my mind. Rest and sleep.
Resting is statistically one of our least happy states.
Which is wildly ironic, because I just need to get some rest. It's like the mantra of modern society. We're constantly seeking out opportunities to do nothing.
We crave it.
But the data shows that when we actually stop moving, our happiness plummets. Why is taking a break making us miserable?
Because true rest is not simply the cessation of movement. When your physical body stops, but you haven't trained your attention, physical rest just becomes an empty, quiet stage for the wandering mind to perform all of its anxieties.
Oh, that paints a vivid picture.
Your body is sitting on the couch, but your mind is running a stressful simulation of tomorrow's staff meeting, or replaying an awkward conversation from 3 years ago. We crave rest, but an unanchored mind turns rest into a breeding ground for stress.
That makes so much sense. It explains why exercising or having a deep conversation ranks so highly on the happiness scale.
Right, the most happy activities. Making love, exercising, talking, playing.
They naturally force the mind and the body to synchronize. You can't safely lift a heavy weight while thinking about your taxes.
Those activities enforce presence. They shut down the background apps by demanding all of your available system resources.
So what does this all mean? If we distill hundreds of thousands of data points into a practical reality for you listening right now, it is a bit confronting.
It definitely is.
The science proves that almost half of your waking life is spent detached from the space you actually occupy, and that mental time travel, even when you try to escape to pleasant places, is actively taxing your joy.
The monks were right.
The philosophers were right too. Focusing on the present, even if the present is just sitting in traffic or folding the socks, is mathematically better for your mood than letting your mind drift. You are happier when you actually show up for your own life.
It is an incredible validation of being present. But there is a lingering thought from this paper that I think is really worth chewing on.
Okay, let's hear it.
Early on, the researchers explicitly noted that a wandering mind is an evolutionary achievement. It allows us to anticipate threats and innovate.
Right, the whole building civilizations thing.
Which leads to a fascinating, almost haunting question. If the ability to mentally time travel is an evolutionary superpower, if it is the very thing that kept our ancestors alive, but it universally makes us unhappy today,
Yeah.
is human unhappiness actually an evolutionary feature rather than a bug?
Oh, wow.
Does a constant low-level hum of dissatisfaction keep our species planning, striving, and surviving? Have we literally bought our biological survival at the direct expense of our personal peace?
That flips everything on its head. The background apps draining our battery might be the exact programs keeping the entire human operating system moving forward.
Exactly.
A quiet mind might be happy, but a wandering mind builds the future. That is something you should definitely mull over. Or, maybe don't, depending on what you're physically doing right now.
Good advice.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the mind. As you go about the rest of your day, see if you can catch those mental background apps running, and maybe try just being completely present with whatever activity you tackle next. Catch you next time.